my students. So, we are going to read chapter 9. Now, just as a quick reminder here as to what's going on, uh, Ramon shows his father the pearl. His father wonders, is this pearl truly perfect? He finds one tiny little flaw. So he's going to try and very carefully cut out the flaw. It might fix the pearl and make it absolutely perfect, but it might also completely ruin the pearl. You might end up with a great thing or nothing very good. But it fixes the pearl. It's beautiful and perfect, and Blas, Ramon's father, shows it to the community, says, "Look, it is the pearl of heaven." So, with that, let us turn now to chapter 9. There are 4 pearl dealers. Let me go ahead and back and remind you that while I read, I want you to be looking at the words and following along. So that way you can listen and see the words at the same time. All right, so as I was saying, I want you to read along with the words. Don't just sit there. No, I want you reading, following along. All right, so there are 4 pearl dealers in our town of La Paz, as I have said, not counting Salazar and Son. There are many others, of course, who sell a few small pearls on the street, like the woman at the Calabozo. But these are the 4 who buy and sell the fine pearls that come from the Vermilion Sea. About a week after my father had cut the pearl, the 4 men came to our home. At first, my father had talked about taking the great pearl to Mexico City. But he had done this once before with a rare pearl, and the long trip had been a failure because the dealers there are very smart. So we decided to sell the Pearl of Heaven to the dealers in La Paz. Not any one of them could afford the price, nor 2, nor 3, but the 4 together could raise the money we would ask. They came early in the afternoon, dressed in their best black suits, and carrying a scale and calipers, and their money in a crocodile bag. The excitement in the town had died after a couple of days, but when word got around that the dealers were going to the Salazars to buy the great black pearl, a crowd followed them and stood outside our gate. My mother and my 2 sisters had come back from Loreto, for they too had heard the news of the pearl, and so the fountain in the patio was turned on, and the parlor was fixed up with flowers, and all the furniture shone. The 4 men wore serious faces, and they put their calipers and scales on the parlor table and their brown crocodile bag. They sat down and folded their hands and said nothing. Then my father said, "The bag is very small, gentlemen. I doubt that it holds enough money to buy the great pearl of heaven." 4 dealers did not like this. One of them, named Arturo Martin, was big and shaped like a barrel and had small white hands. "I have heard that the pearl is the size of a grapefruit," he said, "in which case we have more money than we need. For as you know, the large ones are of little value." "They do not live long, these monsters," said Miguel Palomares, who was as fat as Martin and had a bald head that glistened. "They often die or become dull before a year passes." "And so do many small ones," my father said. "Like the pink one Senor Palomares sold us last month." Senor Palomares shrugged his shoulders. "Before I show you the pearl of heaven," my father said, "I will tell you the price. It is 20,000 pesos. No more, no less." The 4 men looked at each other and smiled thin smiles, as if to say that they had made up their minds already about what they would pay. My father went out of the room and came back with the pearl wrapped in a piece of white velvet. He laid it on the table in front of the 4 dealers. "Now, gentlemen," he said with a flourish, and unwrapped the pearl, and stepped back so all of them could see it. The pearl of heaven. The great pearl caught the light, gathered it, and softened it into a moon of dark fire. None of the dealers spoke for a moment or two. Here are the 4 dealers and the pearl. Then Signor Martin said, "It is as I feared, more like a grapefruit than a pearl." "It is a monster, all right," Signor Palomares said. "The kind that often has a brief life and is very hard to sell." One of the dealers, who had not spoken, cleared his throat and said, "But we will make an offer." The other dealers nodded solemnly. 10,000 pesos, said Martin. Signor Palomares grasped the pearl in a small white hand and studied it. "I think that I see a flaw," he said after a long time. 10,000 is too much." "There is no flaw," my father said. "And the price, gentlemen, remains 20,000 pesos. The great pearl was passed around to the other dealers, and they all turned it in their hands and squinted at it. At last, Signor Martin used the calipers and placed the pearl on the scales. His readings were the same as I had made, almost. 11,000 pesos, he said. 9,000 more is required, my father answered. In your lives, you have never seen a pearl like this one, nor will you. 12,000, said Signor Palomares. After that, and for most of an hour, the price the dealers offered went up 250 pesos at a time until the figure reached the sum of 15,000 pesos. And then tempers began to rise. My mother brought in a pitcher of cold juice and a platter of buñuelos. Buñuelos. My apologies. I know that she wanted to take the dealer's offer, for I stood where I could see her in the hall making gestures to my father. She had set her mind on a beautiful red carriage and 4 white horses she had seen in Loreto, and was fearful of losing her wish if my father did not lower the price. Signor Martin wiped his mouth and said, 15,000 pesos is our last offer. Then, my father said, I shall take the great pearl to Mexico City and ask twice that amount and sell it without haggling to dealers who know its true worth. Signor Palomares picked up the pearl and put it down. His small head was sunk deep in the folds of his fat neck. Suddenly his head came forth like the head of a turtle, and he looked at my father, who was pacing back and forth. If you remember, he said, you made the long journey to the city of Mexico before. And what did you find there? You found that the dealers are not so generous with their money as we are here in La Paz. And you came home after the long journey with your tail between your legs. Signor Palomares got to his feet, and the others followed him. 15,250 pesos, he said. This is our final offer. My father had not liked what Signor Palomares had said about the journey to Mexico City, for it had long rankled him. Nor had he liked Palomares' picture of him coming home with his tail between his legs. He stopped pacing, motioned to me. Go to the church, he said, and bring Father Gallardo. Whatever he is doing, see that he comes. Go quickly. I ran out the door and into the plaza and past the silent crowd, not knowing why I had been sent on such an errand. I found Father Gallardo taking his afternoon siesta. I awakened him after some difficulty and dragged him back to the house. When we reached the patio, I heard Signor Martin say, We offer 500 more. And my father answered, The price is 20,000 pesos. Everybody fell silent as we came in. The 4 dealers, who had their heads together, looked up. Signor Palomares was holding the pearl, and my father strode over and took it from him. Then my father turned to the priest and bowed. Here is the pearl of heaven, he said. My son and I give it to you, so that you may give it to the Madonna, our beloved Lady of the Sea, to hold and keep forever. Ah! A scream went up from the hallway. I think it was my mother who screamed, but it might have been my sister, for she too had been dreaming of things she wished to buy. Then the four men silently picked up their instruments and the brown crocodile bag filled with money, and put on their hats and left. As he took the great pearl, Father Gallardo tripped over his long robe and began to stutter. As for me, I had not wished for anything especially, so I looked at my father and felt proud that he had bested the four dealers. Then Father Gallardo recovered his voice and tried to speak calmly. We will celebrate the pearl, he said. It will be the most wondrous celebration La Paz has ever seen in all its history. But my mother was not pleased with the gift of the pearl, nor was she pleased with the idea of celebrating the gift. She ran into the parlor after Father Gallardo had left, and tears were in her eyes. The beautiful pearl is gone, she sobbed. Not gone, said my father. It will be in the church for everyone to see, and you can go there and see it too. I do not wish to see it again, my mother cried. The Madonna has many pearls. You could have given her a smaller one. Because she only has small pearls, I gave her a big pearl, my father said. My mother went over to where he stood and looked up at him and wiped the tears from her eyes. That is no reason, she said. You gave the great pearl because you were angry with the dealers. You gave it away to spite them. No, it was a gift from the house of Salazar, my father said proudly. And for this gift of the great pearl, the greatest pearl ever found in all the Vermilion Sea, the house of Salazar shall be favored in heaven now and forever. My mother had nothing more to say. But when Father Gallardo held his celebration, she felt a headache and stayed at home. All right, so these four dealers come in with their tools. They come in with the scale. It tells us how they're going to balance the weight of the pearl. Calipers are a way to measure the size of the pearl. They get bigger and smaller based on the size of things. And their crocodile bag, which would be a very expensive, fancy bag. 20,000 pesos. No more, no less. So what Ramon's father is saying here, he is saying, I will not take 19,999, nor will I take 20,001. I want 20,000. That's my price. That's what I expect you to give me. 20,000. No more, no less. It means right on the dot, right on the money. Exactly. All right. Their tempers began to flare, and these four dealers are, come on, we'll give you a little bit more. All right, 10,000 and 1,500. All right, we'll give you 11,000. All right, 12,000. 15,000. Their tempers flare. And so, Mom brings in some snacks. Here you go. Have a snack. Buñuelos. All right. And then you see this guy, head like a turtle. Okay, it's a simile, it's a comparison. You can almost see this big fat man. His head sticking out like that. Kind of funny. All right. Now, they say that he's going to come home with his tail between his legs. Now, when you see a dog and you yell at a dog, the dog goes, and its tail goes between its legs. There's a phrase that we use when we come back ashamed and feeling maybe foolish or bad. And what the four dealers are saying, Blas, you went to Mexico City. When you came back, you were ashamed and you felt like a fool. His tail goes between his legs. Oh, I'm ashamed and I'm a fool. So that kind of makes him mad this time. So it rankles him. You're going to talk like that to me? You're going to talk like that to me? You're going to remind me of when I was embarrassed? I'll show you. So, Ramon's mother says, you gave it away to spite them. Spite. Say it with me. Spite. Okay. This means you do it to intentionally make someone angry. So here's the situation. I want $20,000. We're not going to give you $20,000. I want $20,000 for the pearl. We're not going to give you that much. Then I'm going to give it away for free. No dollars. I'm going to give it away to the church. How do you like that? We don't like that. We don't like that at all. Too bad. You should have given me the 20,000 pesos. That's what it means to spite them, to do it to intentionally make them mad. And Ramon's mother's like, ay, 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 there goes our money. All right, that's the end of chapter 9. So Ramon's father is going to give the pearl to the church, to Lady Madonna, the mother of Jesus. So that's a big surprise, a big twist. You've got this amazing pearl. You can make a ton of money off of it, and you just give it away for free to the church. Wow. All right, that's all for now, ladies and gents. Bye.